Since releasing his first independent album in 2001, JEEZY'S music has served as his own first-hand experience to life on the streets. We've seen him as a group member of Boys in the Hood to snagging Grammy nominations for the songs I Put On, Lose My Mind, I Do, and Amazing. Initially, he had trouble with critics who felt he glorified street life, but JEEZY has always made it clear that he's simply speaking the language of those who can relate to him. In between the gritty lyrics of his ghetto gospel, he includes motivational messages. With rumors that his 2019 album TM104, The Legend of the Snowman, will be his last with Def Jam Records, let's take a closer look at how JEEZY went from being a street hustler to a successful entrepreneur. Jenkins was born on September 28, 1977. He told XXL magazine he doesn't remember much about his early years. He can recall moving to Georgia at a young age and his parents splitting up. From that point forward, he describes his childhood as being, quote, empty. He looked up to his older cousins who were making serious money in the streets of Atlanta. JEEZY told XXL he was mesmerized by the fast and flashy lifestyle of the 80s, and he wanted a piece of the pie. But things were quickly unraveling at home. In his documentary, A Hustler's Ambition, he revealed he started selling substances sometime around the age of 11. JEEZY told Billboard most of his family members worked for the same little factory and made the same meager salary, but his mom and uncles eventually became some of his customers. He was still living at home with his mom, who was battling alcohol issues and would take her anger out on JEEZY for her failed relationship with his father. He told the AJC they were so poor, sometimes he and his mother would have to knock roaches off their meals just so they could eat. In an interview with ESPN, JEEZY said he began talking back to her and was skipping class. He and his mom were living in a $6,500 trailer JEEZY paid for with his street earnings. And after an altercation, his mom drew a weapon on him and told him to get out. He was sent to live with his dad, and when his dad got tired of him, he was sent to his aunt and then to his grandmother's, where he would sell substances out of her home in the early morning hours before it was time for him to attend middle school. He eventually dropped out of school but later received his GED. When he got tired of staying at different homes, he started living on the streets full-time as a teenager. Still yearning for the high life his cousins had shown him, he cut ties with his immediate family and took to trapping on his own. He told XXL he would receive calls from concerned family members who would check up on him and make sure he was okay. But he didn't want to get them involved. He said, "It's almost like being in the military. You want to serve your country, so you gotta be away from your family and deal with what you gotta deal with." His lifestyle caught up with him in 1994 when he was hit with a possession charge. He told XXL he spent 9 months at a Savannah, Georgia boot camp, and that's when he realized he didn't want to spend his life behind bars. He decided he would explore rap music, but without a legitimate job, his street earnings funded his lifestyle for a while. He started a music company called Corporate Thugs Entertainment with close friend Demetrius Kinky B. Ellerby. Under his own independent label, he released 2 albums, Thuggin' Under the Influence in 2001 under the rap moniker Lil J, and Come Shop With Me in 2003 under the name Young Jeezy. In 2004, he signed with Bad Boy Records and released 1 album with the group Boys in the Hood. But he was more motivated than ever to become a solo rap artist. He recorded an entire album and told himself, "It's now or never." He and his mom had reconciled, and all he wanted to do was buy her a house with his legitimate earnings. Many of his associates were also getting indicted at the time, and he needed a way out of the street life. But it was hard for him to let go. He told Drink Champs he still had one foot in the streets when his friend and collaborator T.I. visited him in the studio and noticed $2 million sitting on a desk. T.I. pulled JEEZY aside and said, "Yo, you know you can't do both, right? You gotta make a choice." Right then and there, JEEZY said he threw his cell phone away, didn't bother to collect any money that was owed to him, and officially left the streets behind. After getting a hold of one of his demos, music executive L.A. Reid signed JEEZY to a solo deal with Def Jam Records. JEEZY had already recorded the album Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101. All he needed was for Jay-Z to hop on the Go Crazy remix to make the album complete. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, selling 172,000 copies in the first week. With cosigns from Big Meech of BMF, Jeezy the Snowman was officially on top. He told Hip Hop DX his debut studio album was his testimony. He knew he only had one shot to show the world what he was really all about, but he wasn't interested in record sales. All he wanted to do was be heard. He said, "It came across so passionately because every word I uttered, I believed it." He thought it was his responsibility to tell the greatest story ever told, and he succeeded. His catchphrases and ad-libs would cement him as a hip-hop legend, but his life was about to take an unexpected turn. He hit the road to begin performing in packed venues. Because he wasn't professionally trained to use his voice, he told ESPN he would get on stage and yell and scream, making his raspy voice even more deep and gruffy. Eventually, he tore his vocal cords. For the next 7 months, he couldn't talk and couldn't perform. He saw his career drifting away from him and he was terrified. In order to save his career, he needed help. He booked a vocal cord surgery, and because he didn't have medical insurance, he paid for the procedure with $70,000 worth of cash bundled up in a brown paper bag. Fans of the rapper can hear the progression of his voice from his earlier albums to his later work. He still sounds raspy, but he said the surgery, in combination with the lessons taught by his trained professional vocal teacher, made his voice, quote, a bit cleaner. With things back on track, he was able to perform again. In May 2006, he traveled to Miami, and according to MTV, Jeezy was with a group of men who were involved in an early morning fight. A passerby began filming the scuffle, and when he allegedly refused to hand over the video camera, one of the men in Jeezy's group reportedly began shooting. No one was injured, but the rapper was locked up. According to E! News, prosecutors couldn't find enough evidence and the charges were dropped. In December 2006, he put his focus back into his music by releasing Thug Motivation 102, The Inspiration, which featured a collaboration with Keisha Cole on the song Dreamin'. The two were rumored to be in a relationship, and Jeezy even told Vibe magazine Keisha proposed to him. Jeezy, who was reportedly a father of 2 at the time, told the magazine he told Keisha he was more focused on making money for his family. He said, "I was grown enough to tell her, look baby, this isn't what it is right now." With the money rolling in, he hit up a gentleman's club in May 2007. After a verbal altercation, he and 2 of his friends were charged with disorderly conduct. But Jeezy was still at the top of his game, and that same year, he splurged on a white 2007 Lamborghini Murcielago Roadster. While celebrating his birthday at Justin's restaurant in Atlanta, Jeezy hopped into his Lambo and attempted to turn onto the road when he was hit by a taxicab. The car was destroyed, and thankfully, Jeezy only had a scratch on his head. He told ESPN he put on a Band-Aid, hopped out of his wrecked Lambo, got into his Ferrari, and continued his birthday festivities. Jeezy kept quiet after that, up until June 2008 when he was driving a white Corvette near Atlanta's Interstate 85 when he was pulled over and charged with DUI, speeding, reckless driving, missing tags, driving with an open container, and failing to show proof of insurance. Months later, he released The Recession, and then came a long break. At the beginning of 2014, the past came back to haunt him. Jeezy turned himself into authorities after his eldest son accused him of getting physical with him in an incident that allegedly occurred in 2012. And less than 3 weeks after he turned himself in, the AJC reported Jeezy was walking outside of his girlfriend's house when he was approached by cops. When they asked for identification, he refused and allegedly began cursing at officers. The rapper was locked up and charged with obstruction, and more problems were right around the corner. He and his crew were locked up for 4 days in connection with a shooting that occurred at a Wiz Khalifa concert in Irvine, California. He was released on $1 million bail, just in time for the release of his album, Seen It All, the autobiography. 3 months after the album's release, the charges against Jeezy were dropped. In 2015, he announced he was the father of a 1-year-old daughter. The following year, he reportedly proposed to his daughter's mother. Sadly, their relationship wouldn't last. Then came more music, including Church in the Streets, Trap or Die 3, Pressure, and the 2019 album TM-104 The Legend of the Snowman. In total, he has sold over 5 million records worldwide and has numerous platinum and gold albums. As of September 2019, Jeezy announced he was the proud owner of all of his masters. In the past, he was known for beefing with Rick Ross, DJ Drama, and Gucci Mane. But these days, he serves as a mentor for younger artists, including Lil Durk and Kodak Black, whom he talks to on the phone every other day. Not only does he provide them with guidance, but he gives them business advice as well. The trapper-turned-entrepreneur has built up his own business portfolio with real estate investments, including a 6-story compound studio. He also told Billboard he opened up a few orphanages in Mexico, and he started Street Dreams Charity in 2001 to motivate at-risk youth. He's a silent partner to several Atlanta eateries and has partnerships with Defiance Fuel Water and electronics company Figures Wireless. He was once the multicultural advisor to tequila brand Avion, although he sold his remaining stake in the company back in 2018. He has patched up broken friendships, is in a committed relationship with television personality Jeannie Mai, and was finally able to buy his mom a house with money from his legitimate businesses. He can't escape the tough memories from his past, but those haunting incidents push him to continue striving for a better life for himself and for everyone he comes in contact with. Let us know if you're shocked by Jeezy's life story, and thanks for watching Real Reality Gossip.